Behavior Coaching Basics, Part 3, Focused Observation. This training video is on the second component of the coaching cycle, the focused observation. We will describe the focused observation, explain its purpose, and share how you can use the observation to gather useful information to increase collaboration and support for the teacher. In a focused observation, the coach observes the teacher's use of the teaching practice or behavior intervention and the student's response. The purpose of the observation is to gather information, specifically information on the teacher's practice or intervention that will help the coach provide supportive feedback to the teacher during the feedback session. Let's start with a reminder from the previous coaching training on the planning meeting. Coaches and teachers use the planning meeting to decide the focus or goal of the observation. The goal for each observation changes depending on the teacher's needs. For example, a teacher may want to know how she can promote smoother transition times in her classroom. In that situation, the goal of the focused observation is to gather information that will help you provide feedback about her classroom transitions. When you're doing a focused observation, how can you gather the information that will help you provide collaborative and supportive feedback? You can use these 5 observation questions as a guide. Are the practices being implemented? What is working well? What needs improvement? Do you see barriers to implementation? What suggestions could you make based on your observation? So, to review, during each observation, you focus on the goal from the planning meeting and answer the 5 observation questions. Here's how it would work for the classroom check. Because the classroom check is the first observation in the iBest coaching cycle, the goal is to gather information on the teacher's typical classroom management practices. If you and the teacher had chosen an additional goal during the planning meeting, you would also focus on that goal during the observation. As you do the observation, you would answer these 5 questions. 1. Are the practices being implemented? Look at each component of the classroom check and record whether it is being implemented. For example, are there positively stated rules and procedures posted for all students? Yes, no, or NA. Are classroom routines observed? Yes, no, or NA. 2. What is working well? Look for the teacher's general classroom management strengths. Which strategies on the classroom checklist does she use well? For example, the teacher provides pre-correction to prevent challenging behaviors from occurring. 3. What needs improvement? In the classroom checklist, the areas that need improvement are marked No. For example, the teacher's classroom may not be arranged to promote engagement and reduce distractions. 4. Do you see barriers to implementation? Try to identify reasons why the teacher's practices for basic classroom management may not be succeeding. For example, the teacher may have a lot of teaching materials but not have anywhere to store them outside her classroom. 5. What suggestions could you make based on your observation? If you marked No on any classroom check components, you'll want to provide suggestions for the teacher on that component. For a focused observation that occurs when the teacher is implementing the behavior intervention plan, you again focus on the goal from the planning meeting and answer the 5 observation questions. Remember, this observation could occur during the first time the teacher implements the behavior intervention plan, or after she's had time to practice the intervention with the student. Either way, you and the teacher would have scheduled the observation and chosen the goal for it during the planning meeting. When you do a focused observation during the implementation of the behavior plan, you can answer the same observation questions. 1. Are the practices being implemented? Determine if the plan is being implemented as written. Are parts of the plan being left out? Have parts been added that were not in the plan originally? 2. What is working well? What do you see the teacher doing well? When you see the teacher implement a portion of the plan well, be sure to record it. When you see the student respond well to the intervention, record that response also. 3. What needs improvement? How are all the parts of the plan working? Could the intervention be more successful or easier for the teacher to use if any parts were changed? For example, a teacher is providing a visual schedule for a student, but the teacher doesn't seem to use the schedule during all transitions. You notice that the pictures are stored across the room. As the coach, you could suggest moving the picture storage system to a shelf closer to the student. 4. Do you see barriers to implementation? This question is particularly important when the teacher is not implementing the plan, either completely or in part. For example, a teacher may not be able to find the materials she needs to successfully implement a visual schedule. Or she may have too many students to monitor and not be able to deliver reinforcement often enough during math instruction. 5. What suggestions could you make based on your observation? These suggestions could be based on helping the teacher if she isn't implementing the plan. You may also suggest changes because of the way the student or the class responded to the intervention. For example, if the student doesn't look at the visual schedule that's provided, even with the teacher's support, it may be time to change the intervention. Let's review what we've learned in this training video. In a focused observation, the coach observes a teacher's use of a teaching practice or behavior intervention and the student's response. The purpose is to gather information that helps the coach provide supportive feedback to the teacher. A coach can use the answers to these 5 observation questions as a guide to gathering useful information. 1. Are the practices being implemented? 2. What is working well? 3. What needs improvement? 4. Do you see barriers to the teacher using the intervention in her classroom? 5. What suggestions could you make based on your observation? Continue to Part 4, Performance Feedback.